Are you Adam Graham?
The very same. And this is my old-time radio snack wagon.
Welcome to the Old-Time Radio Snack Wagon, where we serve up a bite-sized portion of old-time radio. And now, here's your Snack Wagon host, Adam Graham.
Today, we're serving a sample of the work of radio legend Orson Welles. Welles had a long, winding career path with numerous highlights and lowlights. There are many memorable moments and productions in his career as a major public figure over half a century. You can think of the radio series The Shadow, or movies like Citizen Kane, The Third Man, A Touch of Evil, or Transformers the movie, the original animated one, as well as a few infamous commercial outtakes. We have all had our moments with Orson Welles. My first introduction to him was in The Muppet Movie, where with a few great facial expressions before delivering his single cameo line in The Muppet Movie totally sold his performance, that he was offering Kermit the Frog and Company a standard rich and famous contract. Yet, if there was a time in his career where Welles was the most interesting and the most innovative, I would say it was in those early days of the Mercury Theater. It began as a traditional stage company in 1937. But in July 1938, CBS brought the Mercury Theater to radio, with Welles as the star of every hour-long episode, and also the director of a series that would plumb the great works of literature for its stories, and offer their own take on them. And by the way, Welles was only 23 years old. While the Mercury Theater generally performed hour-long plays, they did something a bit experimental for their 5th episode. They presented 3 separate short stories, effectively cutting them into snack-sized pieces, which are just perfect for our podcast. So we're going to bring you the first of those stories, this one from August 8th, 1938. Here is I'm a Fool.
I'm a Fool by Sherwood Anderson. It began at 3 o'clock one October afternoon. As I sat in the grandstand at the fall trotting and pacing meet, Sandusky, Ohio, it was a good hot jolt for me, and it all came about through my own foolishness, too. Summer before, I'd left my hometown with a fellow called Bert French with 2 horses that was campaigning through the race meets that year. Gee, it was fun. We had Bucephalus, a big black pacing stallion that could do 209 or 210 if he had to, and a little gelding called Dr. Fritz that never lost a race all fall, and Bert wanted him to win. Gee whiz, it was fun. You got to a county seat town, maybe say on a Saturday or Sunday, and the fair began the next Tuesday, and you took your horses to the track and fed them and got your good clothes out of a box and put them on, and the town was full of farmers gaping because they could see you were horse race people, and you went into a saloon, the 2 of you, Bert and I, and all the dudes came and stood around asking questions, and all you did was to lie, and lie all you could about what horses you had, and I said I owned them, and then some fella'd ask us to have a drink of whiskey with him, and Bert'd lead him on.
What was that you said, sir?
I asked you, gentlemen, if you'd have a drink with me.
Oh, well, all right. I'm agreeable to a little nip. Tell you what I'll do, sir. I'll split a quart with you.
All right.
Gee whiz. That isn't what I want to tell my story about. We got home late November, and I promised Mother I'd quit the races for good. There's a lot of things you gotta promise a mother because she don't know any better. I got a job driving a laundry van, and then, as I started to tell you, the fall race came to Sandusky. I got the day off, and I went. Had on my good clothes and my new brown derby hat and a stand-up collar. I had $40 in my pocket and 3 25-cent cigars and a drink of whiskey inside me that was bought me at the West House by a fellow with a cane and a Windsor tie. Gee, it was fun being on a track again.
George, gentlemen, Mr. George, here, get down, get the best down.
What are you getting for Farmington?
5-2, Farmington, 5-2, no,
I looked around for Bert French, and there he was, standing around with his horses. Hello, Bert.
Why, hello, Joe.
How you been, Bert?
Never better. See, you got any money, Joe?
Sure.
How'd you like to watch it grow?
Like it fine, Bert.
All right, come over here, then. I'll tell you something. Listen, Joe. In the second race, the 2:18 pace, there's a horse I'm handling, Abdul Ben Hamid. There he is, number 7. That gelding's as fast as a streak, Joe. Belongs to a fellow called Mather in Marietta, Ohio. We got him marked at 2:21, but he can step in 08.
Gee.
In the first heat, don't you touch him. He'll go round like an oxen hitched to a plow. After that, you go right down and lay on your pile.
Well, thanks, Bert, a lot. Have a cigar?
Why, thanks, Joe.
Well, sir, I went and bought myself the best seat I could get right in the grandstand. I didn't go in for any of those boxes. Well, that's putting on too many years. Well, right in front of me in the grandstand that day, right in front, there was a fellow with a couple of girls. And they was about my age. The young fellow was a nice guy, all right. And he had his sister with him and another girl, and the sister looked around over his shoulder, accidentally at first, not intending to start anything. She wasn't that kind. And her eyes and mine happened to meet. You know how it is. Gee, she was a peach. She had on a soft dress, kind of blue stuff, and I blushed when she looked right at me, and so did she. She was the nicest girl I ever seen in my life. She wasn't stuck on herself, and she could talk, proper grammar without being like a school teacher or something like that. What I mean is, she was okay. And then, pretty soon the horses came out for the 2:18 pace, and there was Bert's horse in among the rest.
What have we bid on this time?
What do you say? You know as much about it as I do.
What about the brown one there with the long tail?
Heck, ma'am, that mare couldn't beat a streetcar. Well, they looked up kind of surprised. But they didn't seem mad, and anyway, I'd done it now, and I might as well go on. There's a horse in this race, number 7, that's as fast as Streak. Abdul Ben Hamid.
Is that a horse's name?
That's right. Abdul Ben Hamid. But look, don't you go letting on this first heat, because... Don't bet on him, because he'll pace it like a lame cow. You see if he don't. But when the first heat is over, go right down and lay a pile on Abdul Ben Hamid. He'll come right out and skin him alive.
Will he really?
That's the dope. Well, that's what I told her. Gee, you should have seen the way they looked at me. And then you know what she did? Oh, gee whiz. She asked this man that was with her, Wilbur. Well, she asked him, and there was a fat man sitting beside the little girl that had looked at me twice by this time, and I had heard both blushing, and what did that young fellow do but have the nerve to turn and ask the fat man to get up and change places with me so I could sit with his crowd?
I want you to meet Miss Eleanor Woodbury.
Pleased to meet you.
And this is my sister, Lucy Wesson. My name's Wilbur.
I suppose it was their having such swell names. Got me off my trolley, and then that girl. You know how a fella is. There's something in that kind of nice clothes and the kind of nice eyes she had and the way she looked at me a while before over her brother's shoulder and me looking back at her and both of us blushing. I couldn't show her up for a boob, could I? I made a fool of myself, that's what I did. Glad to know you all. My name's Walter Mathis.
How do you do, Mr. Mason?
From Marietta, Ohio. Have a cigar, Wilbur?
Thanks.
And you really think this horse is going to win, Mr. Mason?
Then I told him all the smashingest lie you ever heard. I said my father owned this horse. You know, Boo Ben Adam. It was supposed to be a secret because our family was proud and never gone in for racing that way. Abdul Ben Hamid, I mean. Here's what I think of that horse, Wilbur. Will you do me the favor when you go down to place these 30 bills on Abdul Ben Hamid at whatever odds you can get? Just about then, the bell for the first heat come off, and sure enough, Abdul Ben Hamid went off his stride up the back stretch and looked like a wooden horse or a sick one, came in to be last. See, folks, what'd I tell you? Like a lame cow.
You certainly were right, Mr. Mason.
Then this Wilmer Weston went down to the betting place under the grandstand, and this Miss Woodbury with him, and Lucy Weston and I was left alone together like on a desert island.
Butter popcorn, crisp, and strawberry mine. Butter popcorn, crisp, and strawberry mine. Fresh cabbage, butter popcorn.
Gee, Miss Lucy. Gee, I'd like to show you our place down in Marietta. It's on a hill, a great old red brick house with the stables behind it, way up on a hill, up above the Ohio River.
I like rivers.
Her eyes were shining, and then she kind of, with her shoulder, you know, kind of touched me. Not just tucking down. I don't mean that. You know how a woman can do. They get close, but not getting gay either. You know what they do. Gee whiz, I begin to wish I was on the square with her and to see what a fool I'd been, but there wasn't any way of getting myself on the square now. There ain't any Walter Mathers, like I said to her, and there ain't ever been one, but if there was, I bet I'd go to Marietta, Ohio, and shoot him tomorrow. And then Wilbur Weston came back with Miss Woodbury, and he'd gone and bet $50 on this horse, and the girls had gone put in $10 each of their own money, too. Gee, I was sick then, but came out okay. Then Adams stepped the next 3 heats like a bushel of spoiled eggs going to market before they could be found out. There he goes!
Look at him, Mr. Mathers. Look at him coming up.
Abdul Ben Hamid.
Now he's started.
There he is. Coming up. Abdul Ben Hamid.
Second, oh, Mr. Mathers is going to win. He's going to win. He's winning. He's winning.
Well, we all got 9-2 for our money. After the race, we had a hack downtown, and Wilbur stood us a swell supper at the West House and a bottle of champagne besides, and there was I with that girl, big boot that I am. She wasn't saying much, and I wasn't saying much either. One thing I know. She wasn't stuck on me because of the lie about my father being rich and all that. There's a way, you know. Craps almighty, there's a kind of girl you see just once in your life. You don't get busy and make hay, then you're gone for good, and all you might just as well go jump off a bridge, because what it means is you want that girl to be your wife, and you want nice things around her, like nice flowers and swell clothes, and you want her to have the kids you're going to have. You want good music played and not ragtime. Gee whiz. Well, there's a place over near Sandusky across a kind of bay, and it's called Cedar Point. And after we'd had supper, we went over to it in a launch. Just the 4 of us. By ourselves.
What time does the train leave, Wilbur?
10:40.
And is that the last train?
Yeah, that's the last train.
Oh, Shaw.
Well, over at Cedar Point, we didn't stay around where there was a gang of common cattle at all. The big dance halls and dining places for yaps, and there was a beach you could walk along and get where it was dark. We went there. She didn't talk hardly at all. And neither did I. I was thinking how glad I was my mother was all right. Always made us kids learn to eat with a fork at table and not spill soup and not be noisy and rough like a gang you see around a racetrack, you know, that way.
Hey, Lucy! Lucy, we're going up the beach a ways. Are you coming?
Go on ahead. We'll wait for you here. I feel kind of tired, don't you?
Yeah. I guess so. Miss Lucy?
Why don't we sit down a while? It's nice here.
Lucy and I sat down in a dark place where there was some roots of old trees and the water had washed up.
Feel that wood, how smooth it is. It's like silk.
Yeah. And there was a watery smell. And the night was like as if you could put your hand out and feel it. So warm and soft and dark and sweet, like an orange. After that, the time till we had to go back in the launch and they had to catch their train wasn't nothing at all. It went like winking your eyes.
Lucy! Lucy, it's nearly 10.
Lucy!
I've got to to go. We've got to go to the train now. Will you kiss me goodbye?
She was most crying then. But she never knew nothing I knew. She couldn't be so all busted up as I was. Gee whiz. Sometimes I hope I have cancer and die. Guess you know what I mean. We went in a launch across the bay to the train like that, and it was dark, too.
What are you thinking about?
Gee whiz. Only she knew.
You know what I was thinking?
What?
I was thinking you and I could get out of this boat right this minute and walk on the water.
Sounded foolish, all right. But I knew what she meant. And then quick, we were right at the depot. There was a big gang of yaps crowded and milling around like cattle, and how could I tell her?
It won't be long because you'll write and I'll answer you.
I got a chance like a hay barn afire, a swell chance I got to answer her.
Forward for Sandusky, 5, Green Street, Kermit, Kiffin, all aboard!
Yeah, and maybe she'd write me down at Marietta that way, and the letter'd come back. And stamped on the front of it by the USA, there ain't any such guy. Or something like that. Ever they stamp on a letter that way.
Bye, Walter. Thanks for the tip-off. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye. When that train went, I busted out and cried like a kid. Gee, I could have run after that train and made man of war look like a freight train after a wreck, but socks almighty. What was the use? Did you ever see such a fool? Me trying to pass myself off for a big bug and a swell. To her. Did you ever see such a fool? I'll bet you what. If I had an arm broke right now or a train had run over my foot, I wouldn't go to no doctor at all. I'd go sit down, let it hurt and hurt. That's what I'd do, big fool that I am. I'll bet you what. I'll bet you if I hadn't drunk that booze, I never been such a boob as to go tell such a lie. A lie that couldn't ever be made straight to a lady like her. I wish I had that fellow right here that bought me that drink. I'd smash him for fair gosh darn his eyes. He's a big fool, that's what he is. If I'm not another, you just go and find me one, and I'll quit working and be a bum, give him my job. I don't care for working and earning and saving it for no such boob as myself.
Welcome back. A solid story. While the language is a bit antiquated, the sentiments and feelings are things that many men can relate to. There's something enduring about that unique way that many men throughout the years have made fools of themselves trying to impress a young woman that really does come to and make it relatable. The mention of Cedar Point is of interest as it's still an operating amusement park. I remember seeing commercials on television for it when I was a kid, and my wife, a native Buckeye, actually went there once. It's actually the second oldest amusement park in the United States and has been in operation since 1870. Wells put in a great performance. It's very different from your typical Wells Park, which are so often these sort of brash and daring characters. But it's a fine piece of acting that does a great job of bringing his everyman character to life in a believable yet somewhat humorous and amusing way. This concludes our current Old Time Radio Snack Wagon season. I hope you've enjoyed what we've shared. We're going to take the Snack Wagon in for a while and give it a rest, but we'll return with a whole new series of Old Time Radio Snacks on February 15th. It's time for me to close up the old Snack Wagon, But don't worry, we'll be back with another serving of old-time radio goodness before you know it. If you want to enjoy some of our longer-form podcasts, you can feast away at my website at greatdetectives.net. Your emails are also welcome at adam@snackwagon.net.
The Old Time Radio Snack Wagon comes to you from Boise, Idaho. Your host is Adam Graham. Sound production is by Rhines Media, LLC. You can listen to past episodes of the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon as well as connect on social media at our website at snackwagon.net. Email suggestions for episodes to adam@snackwagon.net. This has been the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon.
Until next time, goodbye.